CT23 with Eric Parker.
Good morning and thank you for being with us. The Connecticut Legislature is back at work and already some interesting bills have been proposed that could impact all of us, from trying to help with energy costs to adding more resources to help with mental health to allowing wine sales in supermarkets. There is a lot to discuss. Channel 3's chief political reporter Susan Rapp and Hearst Connecticut Media associate editor and columnist Dan Haar are here with some highlights. We have so much to talk about. I literally brought a pencil on the show, and I'm gonna mark things off. First of all, I'm just so happy to have you both back. We were together every week for like 4 months, and I've missed you.
I think we've missed you.
So thank you.
Is it still Happy New Year, the 22nd?
I think it's too late to say that.
Second week of the playoffs? I don't think so.
Let's talk about some of these bills. There's a lot going on. Energy is a big topic that I know both of you have flagged. Susan, tell me about it.
It is, and I think right now it comes at a time when people are really feeling the pinch, right? We've got those January bills. Heating is very expensive. Electric rates are high. My only concern is, and I think Dan and I share this, is that there are a bunch of proposals. Federal money is coming in, but it seems like Band-Aids. I think the reality is we need to produce more energy. Right? And some of the proposals are, tapping into Hydro-Quebec. That's going to take a long time. The wind power, that's going to take a long time.
There's a lot of moving money around. The rest of ratepayers pay. It goes into the rate base, and we pay when there are programs to help low-income people pay higher bills. So while that may be a great idea, it doesn't lower it. It actually raises the electric bill. There's also a bill proposed by one of my favorites, Senator Matt Lesser, which says an act to lower electric bills. Doesn't say what it is, because let's take a step back here. With all these bills we're talking about, January is concept month. You put in an idea and you figure out what it's going to say later. And so that's a lot of what we're talking about.
Right, and Eversource's big concern or big complaint was that, they're paying more for fuel to heat their generated plants, right? So with that said, they've offered to put in some $10 million. And so people are saying, well, why don't you just lower our rates? But I think that's going to be a challenge for lawmakers because, again, tapping into Hydro-Quebec, we do have a nuclear power plant, but other than that, we're going to be faced with this for a while.
And then there's an idea to have the legislature approve up or down all rate increases, which sounds good, but it's an exceptionally dumb idea because there's an exact specific way that rates are set. And if the legislature wants to approve it and say no, that's illegal.
And when's the last time they said, no, we're not going to approve your rate hike?
Probably the same time they rejected a CBAC.
Well, at any rate, everybody knows something needs to be done. No one knows what needs to be done. So like you said, it's concept month. Let's stay tuned on that. Taxes, another big issue. And you were saying, Dan, there's more revenue, which actually makes things difficult moving forward.
During this past week, the revenue gurus came up with a new way of thinking. Every January, April, and November, they figure out how much money is coming in. And we've got an extra $300 million more than we thought. We are now looking at a $3.1 billion surplus this year on top of the $5 billion surplus last year. Great, we've got money. Easy to do a budget, right? Wrong. Everybody wants the money.
That's
and of
right.
course, taxes is a big issue too, right, Susan?
Well, it is, and I think to Dan's point, there is money to go around. So how do you use it wisely? How do you reduce taxes? And if you remember, Governor Lamont last month or earlier this month talked about a middle-class tax cut. I think everyone is going to be curious about how that works. Something that they just proposed, which will be in the governor's State of the State. It's very complicated. It's called a pass-through entity tax. So the short version of that, it helps businesses, and a lot of things have been done where businesses can't deduct as much on their income tax. Now they'll be able to deduct more, and that will help businesses grow. So there are a bunch of tax proposals out there, but I think the big one that people will want to see happen certainly is a broad-based tax cut and not necessarily a credit.
And Senator Looney, the President Pro Tem of the Senate, and the coalition of progressives will not be happy unless there are higher taxes on high-income earners. That will not happen. They're going to lose, but there'll be a fight.
Yeah, we asked the governor about that, and he pretty much rejected it out of hand when I asked him that last week.
And the moderate Dems are against it, so it's not going to happen.
Let's try to go quick through some of these other big ones. Susan, attracting more firefighters and police officers, particularly women.
Huge concern. We have a big gap to fill with not just police, firefighters, et cetera. The women, for getting women to become firefighters, the proposal would kind of change the requirements. It's very arduous physically, right? I think they have to wear a very heavy vest, and maybe that's difficult for a lot of women to pass that kind of test. So they're going to try to change that and have them do something else. But there's no question Connecticut needs to recruit more police and fire. The recent state police contract pays more so that they can obviously recruit better, and especially now, I believe, especially with marijuana being legalized, they need more drug recognition experts in a lot of communities, and so I think they're going to have to do better to get more people who want to be cops and firefighters.
Not on the fire side, but on the police side, lingering impressions of the 2020 reform are still out there, and there's still a debate about whether it actually does put them in the firing line if there should be a lawsuit.
Speaking of things that are still out there, that has always been out there and maybe always will, is wine in supermarkets. This is the 9 millionth straight year that it's been proposed. Where does it stand? Is this the year something happens, Dan?
This is the year for an actual big battle. Most years it doesn't even get out of committee. This year it's probably going to get out of the General Law Committee and onto the floor and have a debate. I'd say.
Why do you think that is? Why this year more than it's going to go further?
Because this year they had momentum last year, so this is the second year of momentum, and because they're lining up their high-paid lobbyists.
The grocery stores are for it, the package store owners, and they have a powerful lobby, and the wholesalers are against it. So certainly another big battle expected on that.
But also just keep in mind Sunday sales with the package store lobbyists and the group. They all said, you know, we're going to shut down. Everything's going to go away if you allow Sunday sales and to stay open late. We didn't see that.
Yeah, but it does make their jobs harder.
No question. I mean, they have to hire more people to compete with the grocery stores, but I'm not sure it's quite the devastation that they think it is.
Susan, kids' mental health bills, that's another big topic, something that both parties are supporting.
Yeah, we saw that in the last legislative session. It's always encouraging to see bipartisan support. You know, there's no question the pandemic made things a lot more challenging for a lot of young people. And so this will continue the work that both sides have done to provide more resources and money for school districts. Keep in mind, Killing Lee recently decided not to, fund their mental health service. And even students there were upset and their parents. So hopefully this will provide more access to the services that are badly needed.
It's a money thing, really, strictly. Where do you put the priorities? There are a lot of things. We could talk forever about things in the $40 to $60 million, $70 million range that people, it's big enough to make a difference and small enough that people say, we got plenty of money, let's do this.
30 seconds left. One other one is to rename the Thames River.
I'm in favor of it. It's the Pequot River historically. The Thames River has only been called the Thames River since 1646. That's brand new. Let's go back to the historic name, the Pequot River. Rodney Butler likes it. From the Mashantucket Pequots, that's good enough for me.
And I just want to add one thing. Every year, at the beginning of a legislative session, more than 3,000 bills get proposed, right? So, and what comes out, a vast majority of those bills go nowhere. So we'll have to see what actually goes against the wall and sticks and comes out on the other side.
Pequot is better than lollipops as the state food.
We are all out of time. We will have you guys back. 3,000 bills. We'll do this again. More to talk about. Dan Haar, Susan Raff, thank you both for being with us. Coming up later in our broadcast, a local emergency room nurse on his trips to Ukraine. His mission to train medical workers there to deal with trauma patients, trying to give them the best chance for survival in that war-torn country. Coming up next, a local principal receives a big honor. She'll join us right after this.